In the heart of Nashville, under the shimmering lights of the 60th Academy of Country Music Awards, a poignant moment unfolded, one that paid homage to a love story spanning nearly 6 decades. Dolly Parton, the queen of country music, stood center stage, her voice trembling with emotion as she honored her late husband, Carl Dean. Carl, who passed away in March 2025 at the age of 82, was more than just Dolly's partner. He was her anchor, her muse, and her greatest supporter. The tribute began with a heartfelt performance of Dolly's latest single, If You Hadn't Been There. Released just days after Carl's passing, the song encapsulates the depth of their bond and the void his absence has left. Lyrics like, "You were the calm in my storm, the light in my dark," resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom were moved to tears. As the final notes lingered, the auditorium fell silent, a collective breath. Held in reverence, Dolly, with tears glistening in her eyes, shared anecdotes of their life together. How Carl shunned the spotlight, choosing instead a life of quiet support, always cheering her on from the sidelines. The stage faded to darkness. Then, slowly, a soft light bathed the screen as a touching montage began to play. A collection of photographs and home videos came to life, offering a rare, intimate look at Dolly Parton and her beloved husband, Carl Dean. The story started at the beginning, 2 young souls falling in love. Black and white snapshots showed them smiling shyly, holding hands, lost in each other's eyes. Then came their wedding day, Dolly in a simple white dress, Carl in his Sunday best. No flashy cameras, no red carpet, just love, pure, honest, and strong. The images flowed gently from moment to moment, Dolly laughing in the kitchen, Carl mowing the lawn, the 2 of them rocking on their porch, tucked away from the world. Every photo, every frame told the same story, a lifetime of love, built not on fame, but on friendship, loyalty, and trust. There were even rare clips of Carl watching quietly from backstage or sitting in the audience during Dolly's performances. He may have avoided the spotlight, but he never stopped cheering her on from the shadows. Then came a moment no one expected. The lights dimmed again, and when they rose, country legend Reba stood alone on stage. The crowd erupted, in applause not just for who she is, but for what she represents. A close friend, a witness to the love story everyone had just seen. Reba took a deep breath. Then she spoke. "I've known Dolly almost my whole life," she began, her voice steady yet full of emotion. "And I've always admired the way Carl loved her, and how deeply she loved him right back. Carl was quiet, humble. But man, he had a wicked sense of humor. He'd hit you with a joke when you least expected it," she smiled gently, remembering. Carl didn't need fame. He didn't care for attention. But he believed in Dolly with all his heart. He grounded her. He supported her. And he loved her, not the performer, not the superstar, but the woman behind it all. That's rare. That's real. The room was silent. Reba's words seemed to float in the air, settling gently into every heart in the audience. She continued, "Carl was more than Dolly's husband. He was her partner, her rock, her home." As Reba left the stage, the lights dimmed once more, and the first notes of "I Will Always Love You" began to play. Dolly stepped into the spotlight, dressed in elegant black with a soft glow around. She was joined by a choir, some of country music's most cherished voices standing behind her in quiet tribute. Her voice, gentle yet powerful, filled the room. Every note carried a lifetime of memories. Every lyric felt like a whisper from the heart. The choir joined in, their harmonies rising like a wave, lifting the song to new heights. It wasn't just music, it was a message, a goodbye, a thank you. As the final chords of "I Will Always Love You" echoed through the hall, a profound stillness swept across the venue, just for a moment. Then, slowly, the audience began to rise. One by one, people stood on their feet, moved not just by the performance, but by the raw honesty of it. The applause that followed wasn't just loud, it was thunderous. It shook the room. Some clapped with heartfelt joy, grateful for the chance to witness something so meaningful. Others stood motionless, their hands pressed to their hearts, with tears silently streaming down their cheeks. There were people who had known Dolly and Carl's story for years, and others who were just now beginning to understand the depth of that bond. In that moment, everyone, fans, friends, and fellow artists alike, shared the same feeling. They had witnessed something sacred. Dolly stood still in the spotlight, her face soft with emotion, her hands gently folded as she took in the wave of love washing over her. She didn't rush to speak, she didn't need to. Her presence alone said everything. You could see her blinking away tears, her chest rising and falling as she tried to steady her breath. Then slowly she lifted her gaze. Her eyes moved upward, past the stage lights, past the ceiling, toward the heavens. In the silence that followed, her lips moved in a quiet whisper, and though her voice barely reached the microphone, the words rang out as clear as a bell. "Thank you for loving me." 3 simple words, but behind them was a lifetime of meaning. It wasn't just a goodbye. It was a message, a final note in a love song that had played softly behind the scenes for over 5 decades. A message to the man who had stood by her side when no one else was watching, who had loved her not for the fame, not for the music, but for the woman she truly was. And just like that, the tribute came to a close. But what remained in the air was unforgettable. Carl Dean may never have chased the spotlight. He didn't crave attention. He rarely gave interviews. He didn't stand on stages or walk red carpets. In fact, many people outside Dolly's closest circle knew very little about him, and yet those who did, those who saw him behind the scenes, understood just how extraordinary he truly was. In a world that celebrates flash and fame, Carl chose a different path. He found joy in the quiet moments, mowing the lawn, fixing up cars, sitting on the porch, holding Dolly's hand during late-night conversations. He never needed cameras to validate his love, or an audience to prove his devotion. His was the kind of love that existed in the background, strong and unshakable. Quiet but never small. And in that quiet, Carl became a legend in his own right. Because sometimes the greatest strength lies not in standing on a stage, but in standing beside someone you love, through the highs, the lows, the chaos, and the calm. And Carl did exactly that. This tribute wasn't just about remembering a man. It was about honoring a love story. A real one built not on fairy tales, but on mutual respect, patience, laughter, and unwavering support. A story that reminded everyone watching that true love doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes it just needs to be steady. Dolly Parton, one of the brightest stars in the history of music, always said that Carl was her biggest fan, but also her greatest grounding force. While the world saw her sparkle and shine, Carl saw her soul. He believed in her dreams, but never let her forget who she was beneath all the rhinestones and fame, and that's what makes their bond so powerful. It's easy to fall in love when everything is perfect, when the skies are clear, the days are light, and life feels effortless. In those moments, love can bloom quickly, shining with all the excitement of something new. But the kind of love that lasts, the love that weathers the storms, that stays steady through late nights, long distances, and even the constant pressure of fame, that kind of love is incredibly rare. Carl Dean and Dolly Parton had that rare love. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud, it didn't chase attention or ask to be seen, but it was strong, and it was real. Every single day they chose each other, quietly, sincerely, without needing the world's validation. While Dolly dazzled audiences across the globe, Carl stayed home, tending to the things that truly mattered. Their love lived behind the curtain, unseen by many, but deeply felt by those who knew them best. They understood something few couples do, that love doesn't always look like grand gestures or poetic speeches. Sometimes it looks like making coffee in the morning, waiting up after a late-night show, holding hands during tough times, believing in each other when things get hard, being someone's safe place in a world full of noise, and that's exactly who Carl was for Dolly. As the lights dimmed and the audience slowly began to make their way toward the exits, There was a stillness in the room, a kind of collective reflection. The tribute they had just witnessed wasn't just another awards show moment. It was something more. It was a window into a love story that had quietly spanned over half a century. People didn't rush to leave. Many stood in place, just breathing in the silence. Some whispered softly to one another. Others wiped away tears. There was a feeling in the air, a tenderness, a kind of emotional warmth that lingered long after the final note had faded. It felt personal, even to those who had never met Carl or Dolly, because what they had just experienced wasn't just a farewell to a husband or a celebration of a marriage. It was a tribute to something greater. It was about enduring love. The kind that doesn't fade when the spotlight turns off. The kind that isn't built on glitter, but on grit. That type of love shows up, not just when it's convenient, but every single day. In the ordinary, in the quiet, in the in-between moments that most people never see. It's the love that holds you when you're tired and unsure. The love that stands by you when your world feels unsteady. The love that whispers, "You're not alone. I'm right here." Even when everything else feels far away, that kind of love, it changes people. It grounds them. It gives them the strength to rise, to shine, to carry on. And Carl Dean embodied that love in its purest form right up to the very end. He never wanted the fame. He never chased the lights. But he understood what it meant to be there, truly be there, for someone you love. And for Dolly, he was always there. Through the whirlwind of concerts and interviews, through the pressure of the music industry, through the moments of doubt and exhaustion, he remained her constant. When Dolly stood under the spotlight, she carried Carl's quiet strength with her. When she sang to millions, she carried his belief in her. And when she whispered that final message, "Thank you for loving me," she spoke for a lifetime of shared dreams, laughter, and devotion. It was a goodbye, yes, but it was also a promise, because Carl may be gone from this world, but his presence, it lingers. In the memories they created, in the home they built together, in the deep, unwavering love that surrounded every part of their lives. He lives on in her music, in every lyric that carries a hint of longing or hope. He lives on in her smile, in every glance upward, in every word of gratitude she shares. And he lives on in every heart that still believes in the kind of love that stays. The kind of love that isn't bound by time or distance. The kind of love that doesn't fade when someone leaves this world. The kind of love that quietly, gently endures, because some love stories don't end. They aren't marked by a final chapter or a closing curtain. They keep going in the lives they've touched, in the lessons they've taught, and in the strength they've passed on. Some love stories live forever, and Carl and Dolly's story, rooted in patience, in loyalty, in quiet devotion, is one of them. It may not have been splashed across magazine covers or broadcast on every red carpet, but in its own soft, steady way, it shines brighter than most. And that shine, it doesn't fade. It simply glows, softly, eternally, lighting the path for everyone who still dares to believe in a love that truly lasts.